Vance Boelter has been sentenced to spend the rest of his life behind bars after the brutal attacks on Minnesota lawmakers at their homes. For those who followed the story, the headline might have sounded like a headline, but it reads as a tragedy that shook a state. In June 2025, Boelter, a 59-year-old Minnesotan, opened fire on the residence of Democratic state officials, killing House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark and wounding State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette. The murders were described by prosecutors as targeted political assassinations, prompting an urgent statewide manhunt that left Minnesotans shocked and fearful. More than a Viking-style search, the manhunt was a coordinated effort that spanned the state. Boelter had disguised himself as a law enforcement officer and had shot the victims in the middle of the night. What stunned the public even further was that he never left a clear motive. In this era of intensified political violence concerns, it was a chilling attack that seemed to be a direct assault on democracy itself. On June, Boelter pleaded guilty to 2 counts of murder, stalking and firearm offenses. Prosecutors, after thorough deliberations, chose not to seek the death penalty. Instead, they worked out a plea agreement that the court later upheld. U.S. District Judge John Tunheim imposed 2 life sentences plus an additional 4 decades in prison, just as Boelter and the government had agreed upon as part of the plea. Judge Tunheim, in his ruling, noted, "This was a brutal attack on elected public officials and their families, which truly is an attack on democracy itself. Our beloved state may in some sense never be the same." The judge was echoing a sentiment shared by families, colleagues, and the wider state. The gravity of this crime was not only a loss of life subscription but a blow to the very sense of safety and public service. Solidity and remorse were evident during the hearing. Boelter stood in the packed courtroom, said, "To every person I have caused loss, pain, heartache, confusion, sadness, shame or loneliness, I am truly sorry." The court was silent at times as victims' families and friends spoke of sleepless nights and a lingering sense of vulnerability. They described the loss of normalcy, the quiet symptom of grief, the open-door fear that John Hoffman could no longer bear. The impact extends beyond the political realm. The death of Melissa and Mark Hortman tore through a family that held love and liberty in high regard. Their son Colin remembered the shock of their absence at his wedding last year. As he recounted, instead of the son and mother dance, he found himself wept with his sister at the reception. He expressed that the loss lingered everywhere. Boelter's crimes rippled through the family's lives, as what happened to the bakers did to the hobbyists. Lost at the trauma, even pets suffered. The philosophy that led Yvette to consider ending the life of a wounded dog left emotional recall. A veterinarian compassionately told the Hortman sister that the proper thing would be to put the animal down. "Even a seemingly small moment," she said, "Colin and I agreed he'd want to be with his parents." The audio of the court, the magnified grief, and the victims' relatives brought a visual sense of a state on edge. This is not just a sentence for a criminal, it's a verdict that addresses democratic values and brings to the forefront the emotional scarring that perpetrators can inflict on a whole society. As we wrap up, let's remember the poignancy of the life that was cut short and the attorneys, officials, and families who endured this ordeal. Connecticut Democrats and Minnesotans alike will be watching how a justice system may recover. Finn.